Hi everybody, this is Diane. I'm going to try to do a video of my personal journal collection so you can see all the different ones that I've made and kept for myself over the years. I'm going to try to put a new one up every Sunday if I can until I'm done. So what I have to do is take all of my journals that I created off my shelves and put them somewhere so that as I do the videos I can put them back, and that way I won't forget which ones I've already done. So I'm gonna have to try to, not make it last too long so I don't just have piles of journals sitting around. So let's just get started with, this is episode 2. Let's see, which one will I start with? This one has paper on the binding and this one has paper, and I know the ones with the cardstock binding are older. So let's start with this one. I love this one because it was made with an old reader, and you know I love old readers. This one is On Cherry Street, and I put Mod Podge over it. I added the doily and the words read cut from a piece of Tim Holtz paper. It's got some pretty thin ribbon in here. I think it's silk embroidery ribbon, actually. I might replace that with something different. I think there was a mark on the back that I wanted to cover, so I cut her out of a book and glued her on, and then she ended up with this mark on her, which I have no idea what it was, but it's Mod Podged in there now. And just some cardstock paper, some rickrack. And I did do a small bead dangle. It's got a little owl. I just matched the colors. So I'll just do a quick flip through. I love that little stamp. It's a Mary Engelbreit stamp, or at least it looks like Mary Engelbreit. I think it is. From a Richard Scarry dictionary. This is the definition of fun. It's actually French. It has it in English and French. This was, I don't remember where I got that. It was in a book. Maybe it was just a reprint of a Dick and Jane book. You probably saw a larger piece of this book page a little bit back. I was so taken back to my childhood when I saw the back of a golden book that looked like this. So I copied it and cut it and glued it into this book. There's Babar. This is from another reader called Friendly Village. That is Alice and Jerry. This was from a science book. Will it come out? Yep. One of my favorite Robert Louis Stevenson poems, The Swing. I took some images from that Richard Scarry French dictionary book. No, it's not Richard Scarry, it's Dr. Seuss. a butterfly on the butter. That's very Dr. Seussian, isn't it? Love that picture. I just used a lot of images from children's books because it's a children's reader. It's got a stiff binding, probably because of that cardstock on it. Pull it out and can't put it back in. And this is this reader on Cherry Street. I love this. The poem that goes with this picture. What a talent A.A. Milne was. Here's my Raggedy Ann. I had fun with this one. A piece of acetate with this tribal looking pattern on it in black, and I used it to back this Babar image. I thought it looked really, you know, because tribal jungle and he's an elephant. I just thought that turned out really cute. The colors, I just love it. A lot of pages in this book. It's really fun to look at. It has 1, 2, 3, 4 pieces stitched together to make this tuck spot. An envelope made from a children's book page. Ah, that's why it was so stiff. That last page was stuck, so I couldn't open it all the way. I don't have a card in there. So that was my on Cherry Street. And when did I use this? 2017. I just 2 months. I filled that up in 2 months. Now this one also has a paper spine, but I used this one. I think it used to have a dangle on it, but I don't know why I took it off. I used this as a list journal just so I could do collage pages. So I came up with names for my own lists, and there was also a website, and I don't remember it, but it was a list of lists. So I got ideas for different lists to use. And the purpose was just so I could have fun making collages. So I did a collage on the front and on the back. And then each page I would do a collage and leave a little space for writing for making my list. People I needed to see, to make plans with, things I needed to do at work, at my job. Some of my memories of Bill. Things I needed to do. But the main focus for me was doing the collages. So I went through and did pages of collages collages and then worked on my lists, and then when I had a chance I would do some more collages until the book was full of collages, and then I just finished making my lists. So it's similar to what I do with my scripture journal now, because I wanted to keep doing this concept. So in my scripture journal, I do the collages and then leave space for writing the scripture and writing my notes about the scripture. Oh yeah, there is something in that bag. Seen and noted. If you're not much of a journaler, you could do a journal similar to this with just a little bit of space for just noting the highlights of the day. What the weather was, if somebody came to visit or you had something to do, you know, just highlights. And you wouldn't even have to do it every day. It would just be a fun way to keep track of some memories and also do some creative journaling. Oh, top 15 songs of 1975, the year I graduated. I was wondering, these are not my favorite songs. Why did I write them down? So like this was a pad that said 7 days a week. So I just wrote a little note of something that I did every day of that week. You can see a lot of children's book images in this too. You know that's what I'm drawn to. And I guess I ran out of lists, so these are just collaged. Oh, there's a list. Oh, because of the image and the spoon, I wanted to make a list of favorite treats to make. All right, this was another early one that I did a swap with Vintage Ladies, and I didn't do digitals at this time, so I had to find ladies, and I had found these postcards in a book or a magazine or something, so I put one on the front of mine. But I'm wondering, after I made mine, and I don't remember what I put on the cover of the other, but I also included some of the cards inside. I've learned more things about these types of photos that were taken in studios, and some of them might have been ladies of the evening, so I don't know. But I liked this one. I put it on the front, and some flowers. Some of the flowers are breaking off. And this does have, it's fabric, but it's a duct tape fabric. So this was still before I actually started using pieces of fabric on my journals. Okay, so this was before my husband died, and we had just moved into our new house. I put living in our new house. And he died less than a year after we moved in. That one is a multi-piece tuck spot. I should do that more. I do it some, but usually with bigger pieces, so just 2 or 3 pieces, but I forgot I used to really like to do this. So yeah, this one, it's a little risque. That's why I didn't put it on the cover. Like I said, this was a swap. Maybe this, does that go today? So I had made one similar to this for a swap, and then made this one for myself. So even back then, I was like, well, I want that for me. So I just doubled the work. But I get to keep it. All right, these pages are loose because we were in Florida and I didn't take my journal with me, so I just wrote on these papers and just stuck them in here. Apparently they got a little wet. So I wasn't talking about the vintage ladies. You can see I just used book pages and stamps of whatever I had. This one was from Graphic 45 scrapbook paper. So sometimes I wonder if the people that got my early journals were disappointed because I didn't use the digitals that everybody else was using. But when I got into making junk journals, the reason I wanted to was because of the eclectic look of them and all the different types of paper and kind of the junkiness of them. And I was kind of surprised at the ones that didn't look junky at all, that were just made with digitals and pretty papers. And so I thought, well, if I'm going to be in this group and doing these swaps, I need to make my journals like that. So I like to use my vintage things, and I'm not criticizing the Facebook group at all, but I'm saying that I adjusted my style to match everybody else's. But now I'm just I have evolved a lot, and so I don't know if you would still call my journals junky. Even I do use digitals, but I still use a lot of eclectic kinds of papers and a lot of vintage things, and I like to make my own ephemera. But I do use digital ephemera too, so it's just kind of a mix. Anyway, this one is the Victrola Book of the Opera. I loved the cover. I kept the spine. Look how pretty that spine was. So I didn't have to worry about fabric or paper or anything. And I made a pretty bead dangle. And for this one, I had this stretchy elastic, and I put some eyelets on it. And I put it through the eyelets and then sewed the ends of the elastic together. I think this was tipped in here, but it came out, so I just put it in the pocket. This one I sewed the signatures in, or I glued the end paper things in upside down. So that's a rubber stamp that's upside down. All the writing is upside down. All of this is upside down. But these are vintage things, and I didn't want them to go to waste. So I just left them. And it's my journal anyway, so it's okay. That's a piece of file folder that I stamped on. I finished creating this journal on August 17th, 2016, the day before Bill died and my life changed. And I didn't start writing in it until the next August, which was a year after he died. So I'm using more vintage items at this point as I've gone to flea markets. I had just started going to flea markets. My husband hated those things. He didn't like all the old stuff. So he took me to the Tioga Downs flea market one time. We were there for 3 hours because I had to look at everything. And he wouldn't take me again after that. I had to take myself. He didn't mind if I went. He just didn't want to spend the time there. Here's a postcard of Athens. This is just a file card that I stamped on. Betty Crocker pie crust mix. There's a Betty Crocker coupon on it. So it had been saved with someone's recipes. This was in an old scrapbook. I used to make my own little pieces of ephemera like this, and I want to do some more like that. I used to like doing that because I couldn't find as much vintage ephemera as I wanted, so I made my own and made it look old. but now I find a lot of it. This was part of a hat. It's a leather piece that came off of a hat that my husband had. I remember finding this in kind of an antique store. And I think I paid, I don't remember how much I paid. I'm thinking $3. And at the time I thought it was a lot for one little piece, but I'm so glad I have it. It's not a lot for something like that, really. This is Mod Podge because it was extremely brittle, so it sticks. Bingo card. That's cute. I had started my Etsy shop in May of this year, and this book, this is September. And I wrote here, I ended up with 12 items being ordered from 7 people today. I made this into a little notebook. Someone commented from the first video that I did with my personal journals that there was a lot more writing space. She said she could still see my style that I have now. It still looked like one of my journals. But there was a lot more writing space. And I can see that. I wonder if it's because I didn't use digitals, and so I just used papers that you can write on, and book pages. This came from an old scrapbook, and it was torn, but I liked her, so I glued her down. I love this little card. I don't know if you've been noticing the pages from this opera book, but they're quite interesting looking. The actors and singers in their costumes. Old train, railway company ledger. Another little collage. These people came to our church to perform. That was so great. They did it, they were there for a whole week. So it was an event. It was a Bible, vacation Bible school thing. But it wasn't just for kids. And it was really good for me. They did a lot of Irish music and, of course, gospel music, and it was good for me. It was the first time I remember my daughter was sitting next to me during the Irish concert that they did on the last day. And the fiddles and it was so fun. And I remember just looking at my daughter with joy and great big smile on my face. And then she told me that she watched my face collapse when I looked at her, and I realized I am laughing and enjoying myself, and then I felt like I shouldn't be, so I stopped smiling and stopped clapping. And grief is a very difficult thing to come out of, and I still struggle with it. But it was good for me to do that, to be there, and to realize I can have joy. There's a lot of vintage stuff in here, plus my homemade vintage stuff. So there's that one. Another swap that I did was a sewing theme journal. This one has quite a wide spine. This was just a plain book cover, and I Mod Podged this piece of Hobby Lobby paper onto it. It was actually a cardstock. They were the same designs that were in Theodosia Square, that paper that was really popular with a lot of journal makers. But this was a pad that was on craft cardstock with the same designs printed on it. Some of them anyway. So this is a bead dangle with a hanger and scissors and a ruler, some wooden spools, buttons, and a thimble. Sewing theme. So I did a sewing theme journal for my swap partner, and this one has eyelet covering chipboard. So there's a fabric spine. And I made this just before my husband died. No, I wrote in it. I don't know when I made it, but I finished it August 4th, 2016, and he passed away August 18th. I know I keep mentioning him, but these dates, you know, whenever I see a date in any of my journals or any of my photos or anything, I always relate it to before and after. I'm sure you can relate to that. I don't want this set of videos to be sad or morbid. It's just, that's my life. That's the way it is. That's a digital, so either somebody sent that, somebody must have sent it to me, because I didn't do digitals at this point. That's a real pattern envelope. This was cut from scrapbook paper, from that Theodosia square paper. A sewing book. So these little tabs I should do again. They're just little ribbons with a button. And they're kind of cute, aren't they? I probably got that idea from somebody else. Am I taking too long? 32 minutes. I don't think so. I have 2 more that I brought in here. See if I can do them both. Lots of stamping. I still do quite a bit of stamping in my journals. I love my stamps. I love scrapbook paper. This might have been something I found on Pinterest, actually, and printed it, but I wasn't purchasing digitals. Here's pattern instructions, sewing instructions from a sewing pattern. That's a pretty little card. There's a needle book. So this is, I think this is a nice book. I hope my swap partner was happy with it. I don't think I have my records anymore of who I swapped with. I love this page from the Singer Sewing Book. That looks pretty. Something else I should do again. It's a motif from a doily and a paper flower and a button with these little ribbons. I like that. Sometimes I take my books off my shelf and look through them to remind myself of some of the ideas that I haven't done in a while. This one is a Harry Potter journal. I made 4 of them this year, whatever year it was that I made this, and I didn't sell any of them because there's imagery in here that's copyrighted, but I gave them as gifts. So, and I kept one. So 3 of my grandchildren got one. And I did use digitals. So this is a digital set. This creator no longer has an Etsy shop, but it's not Harry Potter, but it's obviously styled after Harry Potter. So it worked. I think it was Wizarding World or something like that. And some things I printed off the internet, so I know that I couldn't sell the journals. I love this old book stamp that I have, and it was perfect for this. I don't use this stamp anymore. I'm going to start using it again. And the story begins. And this came off Pinterest, I think, platform 9 3/4. Witches Bank of London, Lock and Key. So it wasn't, I forgot the name of the bank that's in the movies, in the book. But it's not that bank. It's, you know, they just are similar. I love these proclamation things. It's from one of the later movies, and this was from Pinterest. So I'll just go a little more quickly. And I got to use some of my stamps, my castle, my owl, and the postmark, because things went through owl mail. So this page is about the owl mail, apparently. Some more owls. There was, I think it was the first book and the first movie where they played wizard's chess. And I cut images out of a paperback book that I picked up at the library book sale. Or else I had started purchasing the books in paperback, and then I started replacing them with hardcover, so I might have just cut up one of my own. This is Butter Brew, so it's a take on the butter beer. And Dobby. Maker of fine zapping tools since 387 BC. I guess it's a red ticket. This is a luggage tag, it looks like. And I printed this on photo paper, Harry and his owl, and there's a pair of glasses, paperclip, a Gryffindor seal, train ticket. These were really fun to make. I haven't written in it, as you can see. I probably won't. It's just a interesting book to look at. Advanced potion making. One of my favorites. I solemnly swear that I am up to no good. Another of my favorites. I liked the original one, Richard Harris. I liked the second one too, but I've always liked Richard Harris. Ever since I saw Camelot, one of my favorite musicals, and he was King Arthur. A young Richard Harris at that time. Today's plan of action. There's Snape. Specializing in chocolate frog nuts. Twisted Tongue, Wizard Treats, Candy Shop. Acid Pops and Chocolate Frogs, and Fuzzy Wuzzy Gummy Bears. Superstition Station. There's Stag Patronum, the Room of Requirement. And Hagrid. Everybody loves Hagrid. How many signatures are there? There's only 3. It's taking me a while to get through this one. Now, those proclamations weren't from Pinterest. It must have been in the kit. Or maybe I had 2 different kits. I don't know. I don't know anymore. I don't think I put a year in this. I didn't write in it. I should have made a notation of when I made them. I should still do that, because I make them and put them on my shelf and I don't write in them for a long time, or if ever. And this was from the newer series of magical creatures. So I didn't even put my signature stamp in here, so there is no date. Nope. All right, one more I want to show you. And this one isn't that old. It just has the ring binding on it. And I did sell some of these. I just kept this one for myself, because it has an old Butterick pattern on it. And that's the back of the pattern. I wonder if I put a date on this one. I don't see my signature, so I probably didn't. I could at least look this up in my Etsy shop and see when I sold them, if I could find it. This is a piece of packaging that had these 2 slots, because it had a tie threaded through it. So I just added these 2 little tabs with eyelets, just for fun. This is an eclectic book. This is what I really love to make. Although it has a sewing pattern on the front, it's not a fashion theme or a sewing theme. It's eclectic. Used up some of my, not used up, but I used some of my stamps. Lots of pieces that I had. This is a vintage card right here. Lots of stuff tucked in there. This is an envelope, and I covered the flap with scrapbook paper and added that. At this point, I was well into using digitals. It's probably only been 2 years at the most since I made this one. But I don't know. I'm a bad judge of time. This is 2 pieces of paper that I collaged together to make this little side tuck. And this was a notepad. It looks so pretty on that background paper. More things tucked in there. It's a paper clip that I made with a vintage ad from a magazine. Washi tape. This is a Jane Davenport stamp that I have, and then I watercolored it with different colors in her hair. You are the vast question for which all my endeavors are the answer. How sweet. I don't know where that, that's on the envelope. The envelope has sprinkles and ice cream cones on it. And I love ice cream. Here's a folder. Mrs. Cog's image. That's a pretty stamp. I need to get that out and use it. This is a copy of the back of one of my advertising cards that I found at flea markets. That's a nice looking tuck spot with 2 sizes of doilies and the banner in between and this little embellishment. Something to remember. So you can tuck this here or here, right there, and back there. And you have 2 more tucks on the other side. Be kind. I saw this idea from somebody. It has 2 little sacks glued to the page, and I like that idea, so I should do that again. Seam binding packaging glued to some scrapbook paper. There we go. Well, you can tell I'm having fun reminiscing and refreshing my memory bank for the ideas that I used to use. So I hope you're enjoying it. Most of you, well, anybody that commented said that they were really enjoying it and hope to see more. So that's why I decided I will try to post one of these videos every Sunday until we're done. So that's quite a few. I don't remember how many I did in the first one. I did 7 in this one, and this is still early days of journal making. So let's come back next Sunday and see what I pull off my shelf next time. Thanks for watching, everybody. Have a creative day. Bye.